Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Asian Justice Movement livestream. I'm Brian Pang, along with Jimmy Hua and Chris Lin, hosts of today's online program. Thanks for tuning in and showing your support. We are here today watching a public town hall in San Francisco, led by organizers from the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association and the Asian Justice Movement Coalition. On August 7th, in response to the recent violent attacks on Asian elders in San Francisco, we organized an emergency rally named Defend Our Elders, where we marched in San Francisco from Washington Square to Portsmouth Square, and we asked for this solutions-focused town hall to be held within 10 days. So thank you to San Francisco District Attorney Jenkins and San Francisco Police Department Chief Scott for being here with us to discuss the unrelenting epidemic of violence towards Asian elders. We're a few minutes away from hearing Chief Scott and District Attorney Jenkins, first through their introductory remarks, followed by a set of moderated and curated questions. Then we will open up the floor for our on-site elders and community members to ask questions. This will be in an open forum setting. Now, some questions were collected in advance through Slido or submitted via videos. And the Slido can be viewed here in the ticker once we put it up here. And we may get to these later in the program. Stand with Asian Americans has also organized a fundraiser to pay for security services at the Senior Living Center where one of the victims was assaulted. You can see the link in the ticker here below me, which will remain live throughout the stream. On-site in San Francisco, we do have Mandarin and Cantonese translators, and we will also share a translated version of this live stream at a later time. Now, here's some news coverage on the attacks. And please note, these images and videos may be triggering for some.
A truly brutal attack of a 70-year-old woman. Now, let me warn you here, this video is upsetting to watch. ABC 7 News anchor Dion Lim sat down with a victim who asked the world to pay attention to what's happening to elderly Asian Americans in San Francisco, and we should all be paying attention, Dion.
Indeed. Dan, as you know, I've spent the past several years reporting on attacks on Asian Americans in the Bay Area. Feels like day after day after day. This incident, though, is by far one of the most heinous acts I have ever seen. And unlike many victims, this family was not afraid to speak out, and for good reason. This is the housing complex where Mrs. Zhang's mother, who requested we refer to her only as Mrs. Ren, has spent the past 2 years hiding inside from COVID until yesterday.
Yesterday was one of the day. For a long time she went out, and this is what happened.
70-year-old Mrs. Ren now hides inside for another reason. Bedridden from the extreme pain she suffered when approached by 4 juveniles Sunday evening, who asked her what time it was, according to police.
They searched my body, and then I quickly realized they're up to no good.
Mrs. Ren says that's when the suspects realized she had an iPhone 7. Video the housing complex provided to SFPD to be used in the investigation shows the suspects follow Mrs. Ren into the elevator when she refuses to give up her phone.
They got really mad and pulled me down.
Already on the ground, Mrs. Ren is kicked squarely in the face.
They used the fist to hit my head multiple times, and then they pulled me down to the ground and kept hitting me, kicking me.
The horror doesn't end there. When Mrs. Ren tries to hide in the hallway and is unable to close the door, the suspects return again, not to steal her watch or earrings, but her keys, and to take turns assaulting the terrified senior.
I never expect this would happen to us, even though we saw a lot of reporting from your station, in particular you, Ms. Lim.
While both Mrs. Ren and her daughter can't sleep because of the trauma, they, without hesitation, wanted to speak out for a purpose.
I want this story to come out so people know, and so for other people to be aware, to be safe.
SFPD tells me their community engagement division is working with the family and offering them resources to recover and heal. This family is so brave. My own heart keeps beating whenever I see that video. Now, while we were conducting our interview, police officers from the Central Station actually brought over a fruit basket and flowers and offered support to this family, vowing to help take care of them. Mrs. Wren, by the way, was so fortunate she didn't suffer any internal bleeding or life-threatening injuries. Certainly a tough one to watch, Dan.
Tough to watch, but important to see. And thank goodness she's okay. And good for them for speaking out. Who would do such a thing?
Indeed.
All right, Dion, thanks very
much. Parking lot.
Greg Chu knows an awful lot about the Soma neighborhood he calls home.
Where I live in Stockton Market, 33 years.
Chu's knowledge also comes from decades of public service, having been appointed to the Film, Immigrant Rights, and most recently, the Arts and Culture Commission by then Mayor Gavin Newsom. But he experienced one of the challenges of living in the city Tuesday night at around 7:30 as he walked home and out of nowhere was approached by a man.
He was riding his bike, but he actually dropped his bike and assaulted me. I got punched in the face and kicked, beaten.
Greg, who is in his 70s, can no longer use his left arm.
It could be broken.
And is in so much pain, has not taken off his hospital gown since the attack.
I swear to God, it was bulging out. He hit me so hard that I was down on the ground and facing, and I didn't even know what happened.
It's this assault, coupled with the news I broke of 70-year-old Mrs. Wren being brutalized and kicked in the face at her home in North Beach this week, that has prompted community leaders to rally for change.
It really hits home that this is a serious issue.
Justin Zhu, co-founder of Stand with Asian Americans, along with a coalition of 7 other groups, are gathering Sunday in Washington Square Park with a new message.
This is the first time we're using the hashtag, the phrase, fight Asian hate. What is different with this rally is that we are demanding specifics from our city, from our government, on changes we like to see and demands.
While Greg can't say for certain he was targeted for his race, he does have suspicions.
I was singled out. I was actually singled out.
And hopes with his connections in the city and beyond to use this experience so those in power make lasting change to stop the attacks.
People are already asking me already. I plan to be very a voice.
But for now, Greg musters the strength to one day go back outside.
Anything I do now, I have to be hyper alert.
And focus on the long road of healing ahead.
Thank God it wasn't worse. I'm really lucky, Dion.
In San Francisco, Dion Lim, ABC 7 News.
Following 2 more unprovoked attacks on Asian American women on the streets of San Francisco. We want to warn you, some viewers may find this difficult to watch. This time in the city's Richmond district, just minutes apart, both caught on video. NBC Bay Area's Ginger Kanehiro Saab has more on a story you will only see on NBC Bay Area.
The Richmond district is considered one of San Francisco's safest and quietest areas, but it's now become the scene of the 2 most recent attacks on the area's Asian community. 2 women assaulted minutes apart. One of the 2 attacks happened just past 11:30 Wednesday morning. You can see on the surveillance video a man wearing a black hoodie speaking to himself as he makes his way east on Geary Street. You can see the suspect points at this elderly woman wearing a hat. She glances at him, and that's when he turns and attacks, running her down and repeatedly punching her in the face. As she falls, it sets off a car alarm, causing her attacker to run away. An eyewitness who ran out to help but didn't want to talk to us on camera says the 65-year-old Asian woman was left with a bloody lip, bloody teeth, and damaged glasses. They say what makes all this worse is that this was the suspect's second attack. The first happened minutes earlier and was also caught on camera. The same man is seen punching another woman, also believed to be Asian, as she crosses the street. Tonight, a nearby business owner says the attacks leave her even more afraid and even less sure about how to protect herself.
If you carry pepper spray, what are we going to do if they really attack you? They faster than us, and we are only women. Yeah. What should we do?
SFPD says so far they haven't made an arrest and only have a vague description. Community members are hoping someone who sees this will help bring the man to justice.
We love San Francisco. We love our place. So please, help us, help the woman, help us to get a better life.
In San Francisco, Ginger Conejero Saab, NBC Bay Area News.
Hey everyone, thank you so much. Brian, you're unfortunately on mute, so if you could unmute, thank you.
Okay, well, I'll repeat that. So we are absolutely outraged by these heinous acts towards our elder communities. And we're here to fight for our civil rights and demand real action, not just words. Our community must feel protected and perpetrators must be held accountable for their acts of hate and violence. Once again, a special thanks to the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association and the Asian Justice Movement Coalition, especially to the organizing leads, and I'll name them. Thank you to Stand With Asian Americans, APAs versus Hate, Stand With Asians, Asians Are Strong, Compassion in Oakland, Delta Chinatown Initiative, Dear Community, Asian Leaders Alliance, and the following individual leads: Larry Yee, San Francisco Police Commissioner, Charles Young, Justin Zhu, Christina Chen, Catherine Doe, Forrest Liu, Lily Ho, Myron Lee, Hudson Liao, John Sitt, Mark Young, Hien Nguyen, and my fabulous co-hosts here, Jimmy Hua and Chris Lin. And now we will jump to the stream in San Francisco, where they will begin any moment now.
So hey everybody, as we say, thank you so much for joining us. It looks like right now on site at Victory Hall in Chinatown, San Francisco, things are slowly getting ready and we're planning to have this start pretty soon. But I would kind of like to jump on before, as we have this conversation, to kind of have a conversation on why is this so important? I think a lot of us have heard about the attacks and things that are happened. And I think one thing, as I had with my peers, is that right now, these attacks on the Asian community hasn't necessarily has happened in the past. It has happened. And it may be more, but we definitely know this has been happening a lot. And one of the things that's been very unique is that in this time of age, we have mobile devices, we have video security cameras, we have things where we know this because of the incidents and that happened between the Black community and our law enforcement. We have seen between other communities and having these videos are very important because it's bringing light to what is happening. And I think, as we always see, that saying or reading in the news attacks or things that are happening we've always been very disconnected. But I think with this new trend of being able to see visually what's happened, as you saw with Mrs. Wren and Greg, it's very real. None of us can deny that these don't happen. And none of us could deny the severity of it. Yes, some of the attacks are not life-threatening. But as you heard with Greg, he potentially can't use his arm anymore. And it's in a state where he's unable to use it. And so I think it's very important for us to have these conversations. It is also very important for us to have the opportunity to let leadership, law enforcement, and those ahead to be able to speak and be able to voice. But we do need to keep them accountable. We do need to make sure that they are speaking to us versus doing things in silo or within their own self. But we do need them to communicate with our communities. And we're not asking them to do anything unreasonable. We're asking them to protect our community, protect our Asian elderly community, to protect the Asian community, protect all communities. And having that conversation, that openness, is extremely important. And so I think we are about to start in a moment. So I am going to get off and allow them to speak forward on this and start the live stream soon.
Larry? Yes. Are we ready? How come you got feedback? Oh, forget it. Just sit down if you're ready. Okay? Where's the judge? Do we have Judge Wong here? Victor Wong? Is Judge Victor Wong here? No, he's not. Okay. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our community town hall meeting on the epidemic of violence facing Asian elders. Welcome. Thank you all for coming today to this town hall meeting. Since July 29, 2 Asian elders in their 70s were violently attacked. On August 10, 2 Asian women were attacked in Richmond District. One was 65 years old, while one attacker of an elder has been caught and charged. The 4 who brutally beat an elderly woman living in a senior center have not been caught. Thank you all for coming today. 大家好，歡迎大家嚟到我哋社區會議。該如我應對針對亞裔長者對我哋亞洲人嘅暴力好歡迎大家嚟到我哋今晚嘅社區會議活動，響聖利堂呢度。咁咧，第一咧，我就想介紹我哋啲重要嘉賓坐在We have here Mr. Gordon Kwan of the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association. Chief Scott, San Francisco Police Department Chief Scott. Thank you. Our San Francisco District Attorney Brooke Jenkins. San Francisco Police Commissioner Larry Yee. San Francisco Police Commissioner Kevin Benedicto. Assistant Chief David Lazar. Mr. No, this is Supervisor Matt Dorsey. Thank you. Mr. Charles Chung, please stand. Thank you. Assistant Chief David Lazar, would you please introduce your command staff to the audience here? Thank you so much.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Daga ho. This evening with us from the San Francisco Police Department, we have our acting deputy chief this week, who's our commander of our Metro Division, Daryl Fong. We have our former captain of Central Station, our current commander of our Community Engagement Division, Julian Ng. We have the current acting captain of Central Station, Douglas Farmer. We have Sergeant Kin Yao Lee. Officer Al Duarte. Officer Sam Ewan from Central Station, Chinatown. We have a couple of officers from Central Station's Chinatown, starting with Sergeant Culver Chu. If you raise your hand, he leads the Chinatown Footbeat. Officer Talon Tang. Officer Dexter Sang in the back. We have one of our police service aides from Central Station. We have Officer Anthony Randolph. We have Officer Rob Rueca from Media Relations. We have our two San Francisco Police Department community ambassadors, Julie Lazar and Kelly Kruger, that are in the back. And I think, and we have, of course, Sally Leung from our Community Engagement Division, Senior Analyst. And the last shout out is Kyra Worthy, our Executive Director of SF Safe. And who am I missing? Oh, I didn't see the lieutenant there. Can you come on out? I want to introduce you to everyone. This is Lieutenant Kevin Healy. And Lieutenant Kevin Healy is the officer in charge of the robbery unit, and his office has done a tremendous job in identifying and arresting those individuals involved in a lot of the violent robberies that we're here to talk about tonight. So that's the team, and thank you very much.
Yep, thank you so much, Assistant Chief David Lazar. There's also Mr. Kit Lam, who who was a potential in recalling the 3 school board members. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Now getting on with the program. 總統唔該你講嘢。
OK。尊敬嘅時間警察局長謝溫賢地檢官，各位首長、各位朋友，今日咧我哋好榮幸咁樣請到警察局長同埋地檢官嚟到參加我哋呢個社區嘅會議。咁三藩市特別係華埠嘅治安，始終係大家最關心嘅問題。
Yes, right now, San Francisco's safety and protection is the most important, the whole San Francisco right now, concerning this meeting tonight.
特別係咧，好多啲亞裔嘅長者經常咧遇襲。咁呢啲施暴嘅者，即係施暴者，我哋可以講係佢哋全無人性嘅，因為對啲老人家都可以咁樣咁殘忍去對待。但係佢哋犯罪之後咧，我哋感覺佢哋又好容易又避免去咗刑責。
Yes, concerning the crimes that has been committed recently. The thing is, when they commit the crime, what the president is saying is that they should be accountable. Thank you.
係啦，呢啲咁嘅作奸犯科嘅慣犯咧，好容易咧，佢哋又可以保釋外出，繼續響社會上危害社會。大家都有睇到咧，好多啲店鋪或者係啲汽車咧、玻璃咧，亦都係經常有發生打爛。呢啲咁嘅事幾乎每日都喺度發生，我哋嘅人身嘅安全同埋財產都得唔到保障。
Here in San Francisco, everyone must be protected and have a safe place to stay. What we need is protection and safety for the people in San Francisco.
而且咧，呢啲咁嘅情況咧，我哋一直睇唔到有明顯嘅改善。我哋今日咧好希望政府同埋警察局長檢察官都能夠聽到我哋嘅聲音，可以作出一啲改變。我哋相信咧，只有嚴刑峻法，先至能夠有效咁樣阻止犯罪。多謝大家。
We need the police department, whole police department, and the district attorney, Miss 謝安儀呢，就要保障我哋嘅社區嘅安定。We need the district attorney to make sure that we are protected from the crimes that was committed in order to have them not do it again. We also need the chief of Scott and the complete police department to come around and really help us out. We would be tremendously grateful to the government of San Francisco. Thank you. Yes, now continuing, we missed one of our outstanding officers, Mr. John Connie from the burglar detail. Please raise your hand higher, please, so that you can be acknowledged. Thank you, sir. 跟住落嚟呢，we would please have Mr. Our Chief of Police, Scott, say something, make a speech. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. I'll stand up. See those of you in the back. So thank you for being here with us tonight. And I'm going to start by saying how important that it is that we, the San Francisco Police Department, are there for you, engaged, deployed, and there for you. These crimes that has brought us to this moment are horrendous. And we can go into detail, and we probably will, about the three that have been mentioned. Since July 31st, we've had 3 members of the Asian community, all elderly, that have been senselessly and brutally attacked. And if there is any good news to this, it's that of 2 of the cases we have made arrests. Of the 3rd case, we have the person identified and we are searching for him. So we hope to give that evidence to our district attorney and her team so these individuals can be held to account. In one of the cases, 3 of the 4 individuals were under the age of 18, as young as 11 years old. And that is sad. However, juveniles have to be held accountable, but they have to be held accountable appropriately. And I have every confidence in the world in our district attorney and her team that they will do just that. But we have to provide the evidence for them to do their jobs. Now, we're going to talk a lot tonight about what we, the police department, can do to help these situations and hopefully prevent them. And prevention is the #1 key. Our goal our goal as a police department is to prevent crime. That is our first and foremost goal. And in order to do that, we have to have officers on the beat. We have to have officers in the patrol cars. We have to have investigators investigating crimes when they occur. And we have made adjustments to do that. Acting Captain Former, who runs the Central District Station, has made some tremendous adjustments using the overtime that has been given to us by the mayor and the board of supervisors to make those adjustments. And we believe that those adjustments will make a difference. So I'm going to stop for a moment for translation because I'm saying a lot.
Sorry, there's probably a lot of information, but I'll try my best.
Okay.
各位晚安。呢個係三藩市局長，佢想同大家講咧，關於嗰3件案件係長老者發生件事咧，係好抱歉，2件事咧已經成案捉到疑犯嘅，其中之一咧係有3位疑犯咧係未成年嘅，但係仲有啲眉目。關於第4個疑犯咧，暫時都未捉到佢。
So part of what we've seen over the last 2 years, and some of this started in 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic, is really, particularly in 2020 and 2021, was an increase in attacks against the Asian community. This year is somewhat better in terms of hate crimes. We're much lower than we were this time last year, but that's not good enough, because if you are a victim, you probably don't care about the statistics. You probably don't care that we're lower this year than last year, and that is understandable because we need to prevent all of them as much as we can. In terms of the hate crimes, a lot goes into a crime being classified as a hate crime. In other words, we have to have the elements of a crime to give the prosecutors to prosecute it as a hate crime.
關於所謂仇恨案件咧，係有啲關鍵嗰件事講話要有成分係種族歧視成分咁之類先可以告得入嘅。
And when those elements aren't met, there are still other violations that we take to our district attorney and her team of prosecutors. We are going to do everything that we can to make sure that we do thorough investigations so the rest of the criminal justice system can do what it needs to do to hold people accountable. We owe you that, we're accountable for that, and we're committed. Every one of the members of the San Francisco Police Department that are in this room and beyond this room are committed to doing just that. Because part of the issue, as I see it, as we see it as a police department, is some people are afraid to go outside. They're afraid to go out of their houses, and we cannot allow that to be the case in this great city. We can't have a situation where people are afraid to go to the bank, to go to the post office, to go to Portsmouth Square, wherever it is that they want to hang out. And some people feel that way because of what has been happening in our city for the last couple of years. We have to change that. This police department has to be a leader to help change that, and we will do just that. We're committed.
關於要改變呢個事實咧，講話如果俾所謂啲人唔使驚出去銀行又驚，出街又驚，所以我哋有三藩市警察局喺度咧，要改變呢個事情再發生。
Now how? Many of you are asking how. What's going to change? What has changed? A couple of things, and we'll talk in more detail, and we'll take your questions on this. As far as our deployment, Captain Former and other captains around the city, although our deployment is tight right now, he's added extra patrols. He's added them overnight. He's added extra foot beats, paying attention to hot spots where people are actually having crimes committed to them and putting officers in those locations. Sounds like it should be easy to do that. It's not always easy, but he's made it happen. And the assistant chief and I and the deputy chiefs and commanders are going to make sure that we support what the captains need in these communities where we're getting impacted by these types of crimes to make sure they have what they need to do the job. That's one thing. As far as the other part of our role, when families get victimized and victims get victimized by crime, it's a very daunting experience. And the criminal justice system can be very bureaucratic. There are a lot of things that you have to do to get services and all that. The district attorney's office, they do a great job once the crime gets charged. But prior to that, the San Francisco Police Department has formulated a community liaison unit, and we have officers, sergeants actually, that is their job to support the victims. And we really started that when we saw an uptick in 2020, 2021 in Asian hate crimes, which led the way in 2021. And that unit is there specifically for the purposes of supporting victims and their families of crime. And we work with community-based organizations to do that. So that's happened in the last year and a half, and they do a phenomenal job. But we don't want that to happen, because if they get involved, it means you've been victimized. So how can we prevent it? Another value add, Assistant Chief Lazar mentioned the ambassadors that are walking around the room. You will see SFPD ambassadors. This is in addition to the city ambassadors. We have our own ambassadors, and we just started this within the last 2 years. And these are retired police officers that understand how to work with police officers. They have police radios, they're trained, they have done decades of police work in this city, worked in the various communities that they're working in now as retirees. And their job is really to be the eyes and ears to assist you all to make sure that if they see something that doesn't look right, then they call on-duty police officers to respond and to address those situations before they become problems. That is a tremendous service to this community. So we definitely are happy with the progress on that. The other thing is, we know many of you are business owners, and your businesses have been burglarized. Jewelry stores, you name it. Your business at restaurants, you name it. We doubled the size of our burglary unit, and they have solved more cases because of that increased deployment. They do a phenomenal job with the resources they're given. And when we doubled the size of it, they did an even better job. So we will hold true to that commitment. Retail theft is a problem in every community in this city, and it impacts the Asian community, the AAPI community very deeply. So we're committed there, and we will keep that commitment. In terms of the overnight patrols, many of the burglaries occur overnight, and as I said, Captain Former has increased his overnight patrols to make sure that we're on the beats and that we can detect and prevent some of these crimes from occurring because we're there. It's not going to stop everything, but it goes a long way in terms of slowing the tide of what we've seen in the last couple of years. Lastly, I know I'm probably overdue. I want to talk about community partnerships, because that is vitally important. We know that not everybody who is victimized by a crime reports it. We really encourage you to report, to let us know if you have been victimized by a crime. And the reason that is so important, number one, it gives us a picture of where things are happening, so we know where to put officers to prevent the crimes and interrupt them when they do happen and solve them when they do happen. But the other piece of that is, when we don't report, to me, I think people become emboldened. It encourages them to victimize other people. And we have to put a stop to this. So we need you all to report. It's really important. And we have set up a tip line. I'll read the number and we'll make that available. And this is within the last couple of years. You can report anonymously, but we need to report crime when it happens. That number is 415-558-5588. And you can report anything that you see that you believe is criminal activity, including hate crimes or hate incidents. Sometimes what is reported to us doesn't meet the penal code definition of a hate crime, but it's still important, because if you report it and we identify the person involved, it might help with a hate crime prosecution later down the line. Our district attorneys can use that information. People call you a derogatory name and they have a pattern of doing that, and then later they commit a robbery, or later they commit an assault. That type of information becomes vitally and critically important. So report it. You can't call us too much. We will be there for you. We will answer those lines, and people are using it. We need more people to use it. And the last thing is the engagement with this police department. This city has great relationships. Many of you we work with day in and day out. Some of you we don't. But we encourage everybody to be a partner, not only with us, but with our district attorney and with our probation and parole and all the criminal justice entities. Because that is what it takes. It takes a community to really turn this narrative around. And I believe we can and we will turn it around, because this is a great city and we are very resilient. We have to do our part. We're committed to that. We need your help. So with that, thank you. And I know I said a lot, so I don't expect you to translate everything.
I'll try my best. I know I missed a lot, sir.
But thank you, and for you guys.
我哋知道啲事發生近來咧發生咗好多，所以睇上嗰啲罪案，每一次所謂啲人嚟報案咧，Captain Foreman 咧會已經派出多啲巡邏，啲人喺邊度發生最多案件時間，關於夜晚所謂嗰啲鋪頭俾人哋爆竊咧，Captain Foreman 已經派多啲人喺嗰度巡邏啦。係咁咧，我哋咧想提議咧，如果你有咩嘢所謂唔好意思所謂關於啲事話有啲仇恨，你覺得係有需要咧，要報案俾我哋咧，提供啲資料俾我哋先可以有機會去破案嘅。但係如果你唔去報案咧，我哋根本上唔知道啲事情係幾時發生，喺邊度發生，我哋好難幫到所謂每一位受害者嘅，做一位受害者都唔係好好受。所以如果你唔想通知所謂俾你個名咧，有個電話號碼，我哋可以提供俾你打電話去，因為你如果冇提供啲資料咧，會好幫助我哋破案。將來有時可以關鍵嗰件事咧係可以報案。嗰個電話就係415-558-5588。喂，跟住落嚟咧就係我哋嘅地檢官三環市嘅。Next is our district attorney, Brooke Jenkins. You be the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. I come to you as a sign of change. I know that for the last 2.5 years, it has been tough on many levels. One, with all of these attacks, not knowing, right, whether or not you can step outside of your door and be safe to go live about your daily lives. We've been struggling with the pandemic, and you've been struggling with feeling unheard and unseen as all of this has been happening by the San Francisco DA's office. And so one thing that I bring to you is that you are now seen and you are now heard. I've spent the last 40 days since I was appointed your district attorney, going around to different parts of our city, listening to you, listening to many of you, meeting with some of the seniors who are really struggling with feeling safe in San Francisco and hearing those outcries. And one thing that I can commit to you is that the San Francisco District Attorney's Office is taking these crimes and these cases seriously. Unlike many of our previous district attorneys, I come to you having been the designated hate crimes prosecutor in San Francisco for almost 2 years. I've handled some of the most violent crimes and prosecuted them in this city. And so I recognize what you're up against and what we as a district attorney's office need to do to serve you better and to make sure that we are functioning as a deterrent to those who continue to commit these types of crimes, and that we're holding those who do choose to commit them accountable in a way that sends a message that this type of conduct is no longer tolerated in San Francisco.
係咁，大家好。咁啊，我今晚幫地檢官謝安儀做翻譯嘅。咁啊，謝安儀就講到咧，佢被委任作為新嘅地檢官咧，係俾大家個信號就係要作出一個改變。咁喺過去嗰1年半之內咧，其實佢知道喺社區裏邊嘅情況咧係非常之嚴峻嘅，包括有長者受攻擊啦。 我哋亦都喺一個疫情之下，好無助啦。咁可能即係我哋嘅聲音係未必會聽到，但係佢上任之後咧，就要確保我哋所有嘅聲音都會被聽到。咁謝安儀喺過去嗰1個月之內咧，都見過咧喺社區上面見過好多唔同嘅人士啦，包括咧係華人嘅長者啊、老人家咧，都同佢哭訴過，或者係感覺到唔安全。咁佢自己咧係會同對上一任嘅地檢官係有啲唔同，因為佢係會對於一個罪案咧係佢會好重視。咁同埋咧，佢曾經做過一個仇視罪行嘅檢控咧2年嘅。咁佢咧就承諾佢會幫我哋大家啦。咁同埋咧就同啲罪犯咧係佢哋需要咧係會起訴一啲罪犯啦，同埋咧會確保。 有啲罪犯咧係得到應有嘅檢控同埋懲罰。
And there are a number of things that we as a district attorney's office are doing in order to make sure that this isn't just rhetoric, that we are doing what we can to prosecute these cases better and to send the message that we need to send to the public. The first thing is being a better partner with the San Francisco Police Department, which we know has been absent for quite some time now. And I want to commend SFPD for not only working hard to solve these cases, but for staying in communication with my office throughout this process and giving us a chance to serve as a true partnership in the pursuit of public safety.
咁佢對呢一個罪犯咧係要作出一個信號啦。咁首先咧就係最緊要咧就係佢承諾咧就同三藩市嘅警察局咧係要一個好嘅關係。
The other step that I've taken is to hire a new chief, Nancy Tung, who is here, who I'm sure many of you know.
咁謝安儀亦都係第一時間咧就請咗佢嘅助手就係Nancy Tung 湯曉慧。
And I asked Nancy to head up a new unit in our office, which is the Vulnerable Victims Unit. A unit that is dedicated now to cases involving our most vulnerable members of our community, including our elders, to spearhead not only the handling of those cases, but of hate crimes cases and other types of worker abuse and elder abuse financial cases.
咁咧佢派咗湯曉慧咧係做管理3樣嘢咧，就係第一樣嘢咧就係一個係受害人，即係講緊係比較譬如弱勢嘅受害人，有一個成立一個新嘅組別啦。咁第二樣嘢咧就係負責咧就係仇恨犯罪檢控嘅。另外第3樣咧就係一啲叫做嗰啲經濟犯罪啊，即係譬如例如一啲銀行啊嗰啲都屬於係經濟犯罪。
Rather than these cases being spread across a number of of different attorneys, more junior attorneys. These cases will now be handled by a subset of very experienced lawyers in our office who can partner with and be the liaison between the San Francisco Police Department and who are experienced in handling these types of cases, especially if they move forward to trial.
咁佢嘅原意就係話咧，之前咧就係呢啲案件咧就係俾一啲係好多唔同嘅檢控官去做啦，但係咧佢而家咧就係將呢啲案件咧就專注俾一班比較有經驗嘅檢控官係去處理嘅，同埋咧同呢一個警察局咧係有個合作關係嘅。
I've also asked for Nancy and her team to conduct a review of the cases in our office involving these types of elder attacks to see whether or not they have been charged correctly, whether or not there is any additional investigation that we can do to determine whether or not there are additional charges that can be filed, and whether or not any of these cases have sufficient evidence to be charged as hate crimes.
咁呢啲案件咧係包括咧有啲係對於長者嘅攻擊啦，咁睇下咧佢地檢署咧係咪將一啲犯罪嘅係好正確咁樣係去用咩條例去檢控呢啲人咧？咁亦都會咧係睇下有啲乜嘢調查咧，進一步調查咧可以做嘅，咁樣可以增強嗰件案件嘅檢控。咁另外就係係唔讀。
The next thing I did was to hire a new chief of the Victim Services Unit. She is here as well tonight. It is Monifa Willis. She has significant experience working with victims of crime across the spectrum and over 2 decades of experience working with vulnerable populations. The other person that is here tonight is our deputy director within our Victim Services Unit, Dr. Paul Lamb, who is responsible now for our community engagement from our Victim Services Unit as well.
咁謝安儀咧就即刻咧聘請咗一位新嘅受害人主管啦，就係坐喺中間呢一位啦。另外咧就係亦都係因為呢一位女士咧係有一個有20年嘅經驗啊，關於係幫助受害人嘅。咁亦都有一個另外一位阿 Paul 咧係醫生嚟嘅，咁係幫助喺呢一個受害人嗰個部門裏邊幫手。
I am well aware that the victims of crime, especially our monolingual Cantonese-speaking victims, have not felt served by the San Francisco District Attorney's Office over the last 2 years. And let me tell you that we are committed to making sure that we do a better job in our service of the victims of crime, whether we've charged a case in our office or not. And one thing that I can say is that we are making sure to discuss the ways that we can enhance serving victims within the community and also people who are not victims yet, so that they're aware, especially our seniors, of what they need to do if a crime occurs and what resources are available to them if they end up being the victim of a crime. And I know, because I've been out in the community, that many of our seniors don't understand the legal process. They don't understand what they should do if something happens to them. And so I want to make sure that we are doing more community outreach to empower them to speak up and to get help if something does happen.
咁咧謝安儀咧理解到咧，其實咧喺三藩市咧，其實過去呢2年咧，嗰啲受害人咧都係未必有得到一個應得嘅幫助啦。咁佢咧就會確保三藩市嘅受害人咧係得到應得嘅幫助嘅。咁另外咧，佢亦都係知道咧有一啲長者未必係知道，即係譬如佢哋係做咗一個，即係譬如有一單罪案發生咗咧，有啲長者唔知道係點做嘅，亦都唔明白 一個司法程序係點樣。咁佢咧就希望將來咧就會做一啲外展工作啦，咁令到咧我哋嘅社區咧係嘅長者都會，就算唔係一個受害人都好，都知道係罪案發生係需要點做。
One of the final things that I want to share with you is that I have a commitment, and because I believe it's necessary at this point in time, to creating a dialogue amongst our communities about what exactly has brought us to this place where there appears to be no respect or reverence for elders in our community. I think it's a sad state when we get to the point that our children are victimizing and assaulting who should be the most respected members of our society. And so one thing that I'm committed to and that I've already talked to members of my office about is us having forums like this that bring different communities together to try to figure out how we start preventing these things from happening, how we get back to a place where we have respect for one another, where we protect one another rather than attack one another. And so that's the other part of this, is it's not just about prosecution, it's about prevention. And so that is something that I am committed to and that we will be working vigorously to establish our more community forums where we bring people together to try to see if we can get this violence to stop. So thank you so much. And again, I'll be available for any questions.
謝安儀咧確保咧係會同唔同嘅社區咧進行對話啦。咁佢就覺得咧係自己咧好傷心，因為咧有一啲係小童咧竟然係攻擊一啲係長者嘅。咁佢希望咧將來咧係會同大家咧多啲進行一個對話啦。咁大家咧係要互相咁尊重嘅，唔係淨係講緊係點樣係告啲罪犯，係講緊點樣係去防止呢一啲罪案嘅發生。
Thank you, District Attorney Brooke Jenkins, for your comments. Thank you. Next coming up is our San Francisco Police Commissioner Larry Yee. 跟住落嚟呢係我哋三藩市嘅警察委員余建全主席同。
Hey, thank you very much there, Robert Wong, for emceeing tonight's event. First of all, I want to thank Zhonghua Weigun and also the Asian Justice Movement for putting this together. I know we went back and forth on this, but perfect place here at Victory Hall. It was built in 1952, so there's a lot of history here at the Chinese Six Company. First of all, I want to thank Chief Scott and the police department for their, I guess this is a very prompt arrest for the attack on seniors. Sometimes it could be very difficult in getting these arrests, but now we live in a day of instant media. We have cameras. So Kyra, Worthy, we're looking for more cameras here in Chinatown and throughout the city. So we'll be working with you and hopefully that we can get this to happen. This AAPI hate, this happened during the COVID.
Okay.
It was back in January 28, 2021. A senior, 84-year-old, was killed. He was knocked down and he passed away. His daughter's here today, Montana. I want to thank you for coming. This is part of closures that we go through. And if you have these events where there are attacks that you see, you come together and help the person, but make sure you do it safely, okay? I don't want you to get into harm's way, but you have to come out and, you know, make noise, scream, help. There's an attack out there. We're stronger together. Let me repeat, we are stronger together. We cannot be separated by community. We cannot be separated by our race. We have to come together in this city, whether we're black, brown, yellow, white. We have to work together and make this city work and make it safe for everyone. As part of the commission, police commission, my job is to oversee the police department. And we're going to do our due diligence and the best to our abilities to get more police officers out here. But at the end of the day, it's the board of supervisor and the mayor that does the funding. So hopefully we can get additional fundings, additional officers out here. And hopefully with the new technology, we can work a lot smarter. That's something I'm thinking about because we're now in the digital age. So I'm gonna keep it real short because we burned probably close to an hour already. So I'm here to listen to you. You shouldn't be listening to me. So Robert, without objection, I'm gonna pass it on to my commissioner, colleague, Kevin Benedicto.
Interpretation first. Okay. You sure? I promise I do it quickly. Yeah. Okay. 好感謝咧，呢個係中華總會館咧係籌備啦，喺今日個咁嘅活動，喺個咁有歷史意義嘅地點咧，係呢個係Victory Hall 啦，係勝利堂啦，係1952年嘅建築嚟嘅。咁亦都咧係感謝呢個係呢個三藩市警察局咧係Scott 係警察局長咧係同埋咧係咁多警員咧係嚟到呢度。咁亦都感謝佢係好有成績咧，佢最近咧係發生咗啲咁嘅案之後咧，好迅速係拉咗人嘅。咁有相機咧係其實咧係一監控嘅相機好有幫助。咁咧就應該係多啲啦，喺華埠嘅地區咧多啲啦，係安裝呢啲咁嘅監控嘅相機，甚至喺全市嘅範圍咧係多啲嘅。咁呢個 AAPI 呢個係對呢個亞太裔嘅仇恨咧係呢幾年以嚟咧係一路係越嚟越嚴重嘅。咁係其中一個個案，2021年咧1月咧有一個老人家咧係被打嘅，咁咧就係好嚴重嘅。咁係時候咧，我哋作為一個社區咧，需要有一啲咧對呢一啲咁嘅嘢咧。有啲係一個結局啊，即係要大家啦去面對之後咧係點樣係應對咧咁樣嚇。咁最重要咧係大家係需要安全啦。你做啲乜嘢去預防都好咧，係千祈唔好將自己係擺喺危險嘅境地咁樣嚇。咁但係咧，如果我哋能夠團結一致嘅話咧，三藩市人走埋一齊咧，係我哋會係更加強大嘅。我哋係唔搞分化，我哋咧係唔同嘅族裔咧，係不管係黑色嘅皮膚，不管係黃種人，不管係呢個係棕色啊，或者係其他皮膚嘅顏色，我哋呢個城市都係我哋嘅，我哋走埋一齊咧，要團結一致咁樣嚇。咁我作為呢個係警察委員會嘅成員，我嘅工作咧就要係多啲同呢個係三藩市警察局咧係好好合作啦，向呢個係市政府咧。爭取多啲撥款咁於是咧，我哋喺個社區裏邊咧，多啲警員可以係巡邏啦。咁我哋亦都好好地利用咧係新嘅科技咁啲數碼嘅科技啦，咁就去更加有效率咁係捉到啲係呢個係犯罪嘅分子嘅。咁仲有就係最後就係我喺呢度咧，其實咧就係唔係講嘢俾你哋聽，係應該喺度聆聽大家，聽大家嘅意見嘅咁樣話。OK，thank you。
Thank you, Commissioner Larry Yee. Next in line is Police Commissioner Kevin Benedicto.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for being here. I just wanted to say that on behalf of Larry and myself, we're so fortunate to get to listen to the community and represent this community to the commission. I am Filipino and Chinese myself and understand the fear that our community feels with these attacks. I'm very grateful to the department that they've been able to make arrests in several of the recent attacks, but also it's important for us to remember that law enforcement is only one piece of this. These are not isolated incidents. These are widespread issues and emergencies, and we need all of our leaders at the state, the local, and the federal level to come up with widespread solutions and treat this like the emergency that it is. This is a problem that affects all of our community, and it's going to take all of our community to deal with the root causes. Law enforcement is part of it. The education system is part of it. Our public health system is part of it. And so I'm so glad to see the community here, because community problems have community solutions, and very looking forward to hearing from you.
Uh, 我好幸運咧，係能夠今晚有機會咧喺呢度咧係聆聽咧係大家社區嘅聲音嘅。咁我特別係覺得係感激啦，係喺呢啲咁嘅罪案發生之後咧，係三藩市警察局好快咧係就逮捕咗嫌疑人嘅。咁執法咧其實只係其中一部分啦。其實仲有其他要配合嘅，包括係喺事件發生嘅時候嘅緊急嘅反應啦。我哋要係做多啲係互相配合啦，聯絡地方啦，係要係大家合力咧，係揾出呢啲咁嘅係仇恨罪行嗰個係根源，嗰個起源究竟係啲咩原因嚇？咁要做好咧，亦都係涉及到除咗執法之外，亦都係公共衞生啦，各方面嘅合作嘅。咁係好希望咧係呢個社區咧能夠係團結一致咧，係應對呢個問題。Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Benedicto. Next in line is Mr. Charles Chung.
Hi, everyone. My name is Charles Jung. I'm the Executive Director of the California Asian Pacific American Bar Association. It's here in my personal capacity. If I could first ask this is about listening to you all. Can I ask first the interpreters to identify themselves? So we have Kit, we've had Tues. Okay, if you wouldn't mind just, all the interpreters, if you wouldn't mind standing up. Okay, great. Just identify.
So 我今日係翻譯員，係幫 Charles Chung 翻譯嘅。咁佢係加州亞裔美國律師協會嘅一份子。咁佢今日咧係想過嚟同大家一齊討論，同埋講兩句嘅。好，咁而家企起身嘅呢幾位咧都係翻譯人員。佢哋有啲係幫觀眾翻譯，有啲係幫呢啲官員翻譯啦。我而家俾佢哋介紹佢哋自己，因為我首先介紹自己先啦。我係 Tues， 我係一個家長，都係居住喺三藩市，1994年住到而家嘅。好高興今日可以幫到手翻譯 ，thank you。
大家好，我係 Ada， 今日我好高興會幫大家你哋觀眾翻譯你哋嘅問題。唔該。
大家好，我係 Albert Chan， 我都係住喺三藩市，同埋我都可以講國語。
We're going to go right to audience questions.
我名係叫做係Wei Quen Ken 我小姓鄧嚇，咁就好榮幸咧，今日可以喺呢度幫到手嘅。咁有咩任務俾我就做啦，咁都冇所謂同邊一個係官員咧嚟做翻譯。
我係林文傑啦，咁我今日咧就好榮幸咁可以幫一個謝安儀做翻譯，多謝。
Supervisor Matt Dorsey, thank you.
Thank you so much. Police Commissioner Yee had mentioned the importance of having a board of supervisors and a mayor who are committed to making sure that we have adequate staffing for our police department and our public safety agencies and district attorney's office and others. And I want you to know when the mayor was interviewing people who she was considering for the District 6 appointment that I ultimately got, what she said to me was the number one priority from the district was public safety. And on that basis, She chose me to come from the command staff of the police department to be on the Board of Supervisors. And I'm going to honor that and fight hard for public safety, shoulder to shoulder with Mayor London Breed and with Brooke Jenkins and with Chief Scott. Thanks.
Okay, so the purpose of this town hall is to hear from you. So here's what I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask the interpreters to stand up, and let's prioritize the questions of elders, please, and those who live in the community over journalists and other people. So if I could ask the interpreters to stand up. There's another interpreter back there. Ask you to keep your questions to 1 minute, please, and give the question in advance to the interpreter.
咁我今日過嚟係聆聽大家想講嘅嘢，咁希望大家去發問。咁而家翻譯人員都會企起身，咁當你舉起手嗰時，翻譯人員會到你側邊，咁你就用中文講，佢就會幫你翻譯。咁Charles 同埋第二啲人都會幫手回答嘅。咁提問前呢，我哋希望俾啲長者可以有講嘢嘅機會先啦。 同埋發問唔好超過1分鐘，將你個問題講俾翻譯人員呢幾位3位喺度，同埋唔好發表政治方面嘅言論。咁多謝大家。
Okay, and while you're queuing up, Jonathan Sit went to the community this weekend and took some videos. So while you're queuing up to ask your questions, we're going to ask to play the first one, number 5.
Yeah.
So everyone.
And the meeting was great. And then I really supported for our community and the police and everything, especially our new DA, fantastic, you know. But all our leadership, they should become to every business on the Grand Avenue, not just come to Grand Avenue on the gate to take a photo. Washington should take a photo. They need to come to the merchant to ask. Really, they care about what they need to do and the protection for the police or the community, all support each other, not just talking for taking a photo or just on the TV. This is they need to listen to the one to paying the tax.
Yep. And for you, you have had several.
For me, I have several times they break into the store, and I never see our mayor or our leadership to come to say, hey, you guys need help. How can we help you? And do it like that. No, I never. I'm here 32 years, this corner. Okay? I'm the one to be saying, I never see it. The leadership should be think about it and why the situation do like that.
It sounds crazy.
Even those individuals who wear those uniforms, even tell them that they are limited in their capacity. At best, at least they're out there and looking out for the community when they're there, and they can report in if anything ever occurs. We also feel the same way about the orange information people and also the yellow jacket community ambassadors. He wishes that there's more police and that until this issue is resolved, then he feels that there is really nothing to talk about.
咁啱啱嗰個影片入邊咧，有位先生佢就喺度講，佢明白而家個警力有限，係冇辦法有咁多位警察可以派到出去巡街去捉犯人咁佢就表達咗自己呢個對現狀嘅心聲。
Thank you for the question. So the ambassadors are not in place to replace police officers. And I agree with the caller, we need more police officers, but they are not there to replace police officers. They're retired, they don't carry guns, they can't use force and those types of things that police officers, they can't use force, they don't make arrests. But what they are there to do is be the eyes and ears. And we have evidence in areas where we deploy these ambassadors that it does make a difference. They have police radios, they know how to use them. So the key is being able to relay that information to on-duty armed police officers in a very quick manner, and that is key. We started that program in Union Square, and there's a lot of retail theft in Union Square that has gone down. They engage with the community members, they engage with the business owners, but the key again is their ability to communicate with on-duty police officers so those officers can respond to things that appear to be crimes that are either happening or about to happen. So it really goes to our ability to prevent, to intervene and interrupt this type of activity, and that is why they are there. So we started out with 8, now we have, I think, 29 now. And we're hiring more. So it is a value added, but they are not meant to replace police officers. So I just want to make sure that that is clarified. So we need to translate.
嗰啲所謂着藍衫嗰啲咧，係嗰啲退咗休嗰啲警察嚟嘅，佢哋唔可以使武力。如果佢哋有咩事時候咧，佢哋可以幫叫警察嚟幫忙。所以如果佢哋而家我哋仲有所謂有29個嗰啲所謂退咗休嗰啲差人，而家佢係平民嚟嘅啫，唔係揸槍嘅，佢哋係巡邏幫手。如果係有事發生，佢會用 call 嗰個所謂好似個 call 機咁樣叫警察嚟幫忙。
我想問嘅一個問題咧，就係受害人報咗警之後，係點樣可以知道follow up 呢件 case 嘅結果？
After I report to the police and call the police, what is the follow-up after the call?
So after, if you're talking about a crime or a police report is made, if you make a report, that case gets assigned to an investigator. We have investigators in the room. And from there, depending on what there is to follow up on, that case will be investigated and followed up on. If there's evidence, then that evidence is assembled. We do one or two things. We either go out and make an arrest if there's cause to do that, or we go to the district attorney's office and seek a warrant. On one of the cases that has happened in the last week, the one that happened in Richmond that was referenced earlier, we are at that stage of the investigation right now. We've have this person identified, and we are going to go to the district attorney to seek an arrest warrant, and then we have to find that person so we can arrest them. So that is the investigative process. When there is nothing to follow up on, in some cases there is nothing, those cases basically, there's not a whole lot that gets done with those cases until we have evidence. So in some cases, there is nothing to follow up on. But when you make a report, that case gets assigned, and depending on the evidence and what we can develop as evidence, the investigation goes from there. So thank you.
Clarification to her question is about if she's a victim, they report it, how do the victims get follow-up and information about what the crime is?
So the victims should hear from the investigators, but I mentioned earlier about our community liaison officers or sergeants. Now, they don't respond to every crime, but the hate crimes, the homicides, the violent crimes, those are the ones that they get engaged with. If it's, let's say, a burglary, it depends on really what the investigator has to follow up on. Then you will hear from the investigator at some point in that case, or a robbery for sure. You will hear from an investigator.
所謂如果市民去報咗案咧，想跟進嗰件事咧，佢到時睇咩案件，到時會會調咗去調查部去調查嗰件事。最近嗰件事係有一件受害者70歲個長老者喺Richmond 區俾人打，所謂佢已經有人認出佢係邊個，已經拉咗佢。所謂嗰陣時去同地管處去合作，攞個通緝令去通緝去拉咗佢。所謂睇嗰件事係你報案嗰件事睇係咩事？如果係兇殺案啊，一係搶劫啊，有佢自己個調查部嘅。
Can I just point out one thing also? If you've been the victim of a crime, especially a violent crime, you can also contact the San Francisco District Attorney's Office Victim Services Unit. You still have resources available to you, even if we don't charge a case. And so in some instances, we reach out to victims as soon as we become aware, but you can also reach out to us and we can be of assistance to you as well.
Okay. Hi. So
Oops, I'm going to translate. Excuse me.
Okay, sure.
謝安儀頭先提及到咧，如果你係一個嚴重暴力罪行嘅受害人咧，你係應該係去聯絡一個地檢署嘅。地檢署咧有一個受害人倡導有啲受害人倡導員咧係會幫到你嘅。
Yeah, we have a question from an elder here. She's too shy to speak into the microphone, but our translator Phoebe will express what she asked us.
When the time, so.
Hi. So OK. So 呢個婆婆咧，佢咧就想問咧，就係關於好多窗嗰啲車嗰啲窗咧break in 啦。咁當個財物損失係唔多過於900蚊嘅時候咧，咁嗰啲犯法嘅人咧，佢唔會受到檢控啦，佢只係可能俾張 ticket 啊，或者咁就算啦。咁呢個情況而家係越嚟越嚴重。咁想知道政府有啲乜嘢嘅政策措施可以去解決呢個問題。So this elderly woman, she was concerned it's about all the breaking in the car when the cost of the crime is less than $900. It's actually not considered a crime, or they're only giving a ticket. So things are getting worse and worse. So what's your strategy on this kind of crimes or that's happening around San Francisco?
Yeah, so it actually is a crime. Even if it is something that's under $950, that constitutes a misdemeanor offense if it's a burglary type of offense. Breaking into a car, depending on the situation, can also be a felony offense. And so we are going to be working harder in the way that we hold those who are committing these types of property offenses accountable, because of course I understand that for many years now, we have had a continuing rise in the number of those types of crimes. And so we need to do better about accountability and also working with SFPD to make sure that we support them in their investigations of those who are committing it in an organized fashion, to guide them on what we need in some of these larger, more organized theft cases.
咁謝安儀咧就解釋咧，其實咧係就算係低於950蚊咧，都係罪行嚟嘅。其實咧就係有分輕罪同埋重罪啦。咁佢講到就係950蚊以下咧，就係一啲叫做 misdemeanor， 即係輕罪，都要係會處理嘅。咁佢就講到咧有啲係 關於一啲係譬如係駁車啊嗰啲案件，可能咧有啲係涉及重罪嘅。咁佢就認為咧，佢哋地檢署咧最需要咧就更加係做多啲嘢啦，同埋咧係嗰啲犯人咧係要得到係應得嘅懲罰啦。咁同埋咧，佢知道咧呢一類嘅案件咧係上升緊嘅。咁佢就話要需要同呢一個警察局咧係合作啦，同埋咧作出支援，同埋有一啲呢啲嘅案件咧係有組織性嘅。
And I also want to address what we are doing to try to make that situation better. Even though, as District Attorney Jenkins said, it's below $900 is still a crime. And a lot of our suspects, they go in stores, they know what the limits are, and they'll steal less than $900. But one of the things that we've done is we've increased the size of our retail theft unit. And let me stop for translation.
OK， 我哋已經增加我哋嘅支援係關於係偷嘢調查組部門嘅。
We have Sergeant Connie here from Berkeley who works the burglary unit. We do take those crimes very seriously. Cars being broken into is a huge problem in this city.
我哋知嗰啲駁車嗰啲係知道係一個大問題，我哋所知道嘅。
And we have officers both in uniform and in plain clothes. That is what their commitment is. That's what they are tasked to do, is to work on those crimes. Central District is one of the best units in the city. They're plainclothes unit, and they go out and they try to catch these people from breaking into cars and arrest them when they do. And they make a large amount of arrests.
我哋所謂有便衣同埋有着制服嗰啲差人去捉嗰啲所謂嗰啲疑犯去專門駁車嗰啲案件嘅。
So many of the people that we catch are repeat offenders. And I know I've had conversations with District Attorney Jenkins about working with them to make sure that we hold people, particularly repeat offenders, accountable for what they do in the city. So the commitment from us is there, the commitment from the DA is there, but we focus on the people that are doing this over and over and over again, and they've been in and out of jail, and we're going to try to make that situation better.
我哋知道咧，大部分咧嗰啲所謂駁車咧係所謂嗰啲疑犯已經唔係第一次做嗰件事啦，所以而家你好關注係關於嗰啲人成日都唔係第一次做呢啲事。
And the last thing, communities like Chinatown, people come from all over the world, high tourist destination, you all know this. But we have officers deployed to areas like Chinatown where we have a high amount of tourists. We call it our tourism deployment. These officers are deployed to work those communities where visitors come to our city, because that's where a lot of the car break-ins are happening. And that is 7 days a week, 24 hours, not 24 hours a day, but 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So we will continue to do that because we have seen break-ins go down since we have put that deployment in place. And Assistant Chief Lazar, Commander Fong, Commander Ng, formerly Captain Ng of this district, they really do a great job of deploying these officers in the right place. So we're going to keep doing that, and Acting Captain Former. So we're adding another 19 to that. I'm sorry. We're adding a night team to that deployment. So we deploy usually during the daylight hours, but we're adding a nighttime team.
我哋知道係唐人埠同埋 downtown 個部分咧係好多遊歷區，大部分呢啲事情咧，好似案情咧就好多發生咧喺唐人埠同埋喺 downtown 呢度部分係關於嗰啲駁車事件嘅，所以我哋而家目前嚟講，我哋已經加緊多一個小組嚟調查呢啲事，同埋喺出邊巡邏。
just going to ask, since we're asking the audience members to keep their questions brief, I ask, these are wonderful programs. We're going to keep those a little shorter, to the point. Thank you.
大家晚上好，我想講一下發生我身上嘅事件。喺今年嘅4月19號，我喺8號巴士上被人蒙古攻擊個頭上，導致到腦震盪。三藩市醫院嘅醫生話我腦震盪。咁喺俾人攻擊之後嘅幾日，我都有喺我嘅屋企附近見到呢一個疑犯，我亦都有多次報警。但係直到而家，我嘅案件都未曾得到處理。我同個仔即係生活喺我哋個社區，我覺得都感到好恐慌。所以今日我就想講一下，訴求一下。
On April 19th, I was attacked on the bus. Someone punched me, and I actually went to the hospital and I had a brain injury. And so far, every day where I'm living, I can still see the fender being close by. And I have reported this case to the police, but so far there has been no updates and no follow-up. And every single day, my son and I live in fear. So I would just like to get more updates on this if possible. Thank you.
So, ma'am, we're starting to leave. We're gonna have somebody get your information right now, so we can make sure we follow up. And we apologize that you haven't heard from our investigators, but we'll take care of that right now.
嗰位太太，我哋會攞如果你冇有人跟進咧，我哋會攞你個名同你啲通知，會同你聯絡㗎啦，跟住查部。
Yes, I first have a comment that I came here because I wanted to hear what the city was doing about anti-Asian hate. And I think it goes beyond policing and prosecution. And with that being said, I wonder if the city has some kind of analysis or statistics on where these hate crimes are taking place, and what context, who are the perpetrators, what are the circumstances? Because I think that's going to lead to more understanding of prevention. You know, for example, myself, right? I've been attacked several times on the bus, you know, one by a group of Black teenagers, once by an old white man, one by a young white guy. You know, I was pushed into the street on Battery Street by a crazy white guy. I think he's like mentally unstable. So I think, like the commissioner said, you know, I think the city has to look at this as a whole, you know, look at this issue as a whole. And I would like to see, you know, supervisor, is there any like task forces or, you know, something to kind of gather more statistics to get to the problem?
We want to say that we're all here for the same reason. We want to leave this room with some hope. We're tired of going to rallies. We're tired of going to meetings. Yeah. Yes. But we would never give up on our community. We would never give up on San Francisco, the city that we love. We're here. We want to say, we want to commend the police force. I mean, San Francisco police, you guys are amazing. Every station. And the oversight, you know, commissioners, you do a wonderful job too. you're our voice. Okay, you're the voice of the voters. And then, of course, we know Brooke and her team. She has hired and managed and trying to just load up her team to be the best team so that we can have safety and justice. I am here. I live in Anza Vista. My grandpa was attacked 2 blocks from my house. I lived there for over 50 years. Sadly, Grandpa Bicha, one of the first cases, he died. And this is his daughter. And so we became friends. That is the silver lining. Through sadness comes some joy. What I want to say is, I have one question. Is if I was the bad guy, and I'm reading in the paper, San Francisco is down 300 cops, 400 cops, 500 cops. We're short of policemen. I think we should think about how can we as a community come up with some solutions, like a marketing plan, to get new cadets to come into the police academy and to have Matt Dorsey. You work on housing. It is so expensive to live in San Francisco. Why would you want to be a policeman in San Francisco when you can't afford to live here? So together, the Board of Supervisors, through housing, not just for the marginalized people, but have cadet housing so that we can hire and teach and have cadets come into the academy at hundreds, loads at a time. Like, I have a marketing plan. Not wait for some guy or girl to say, I think I want to be a police officer. We need to hire policemen, because what it is, it's going to overrun into the DA's office when they're prosecuting cases and investigating and justice reform or putting people in jail. That's okay. But the thing is, you're going to have so many cases mounting on your side. We don't have the policemen, to find them. And what Larry E said, to have facial recognition. Wait, I did not say that. No, digital, you said digital ways to live in a digital society where I'm saying, well, whatever. We're not there to say anything about anybody, but I think digital facial recognition is another thing to identify the perpetrators so they can stop. Then everybody will know San Francisco never, you're going to get caught, you're going to, you get this badass DA here to do something. Doing a wonderful job.
With the premise of leaving here, what are you doing to attract?
So let me go and translate for the crowd because that was a long speech, Benita. So 今晚嗰位係雷小姐，佢就發言，佢就話我哋個華人社區同埋三藩市社區好多人一直出嚟遊行抗議，咁我哋冇辦法一直都係咁樣嘅，所以我哋需要政府同埋呢個地檢官同埋警察局一齊合作，咁保護我哋個民眾市民。咁希望佢個問題啱啱就係話，既然我哋個警察局唔夠人手，咁我哋點可以呢個訓練佢哋有更多嘅呢個警員咧，可以喺街嗰度咁去幫助呢個城市入邊嘅人。咁佢啱啱唔好意思，嗰邊唔中意我行呢邊。So, sorry. Your question earlier?
The question specifically, what are you doing to attract and retain officers in SFPD?
咁 Charles 嘅問題呢，佢就幫呢個雷小姐總結咗一下個問題。嗰個問題就係，咁而家個三藩市警察局有乜嘢設施，有乜嘢方式係做緊可以幫助佢哋增加更多嘅警員啦，同埋可以留住啲警員喺警察局服務㗎。
To attract and retain officers in this police department, first of all, I'll start that with a question. Send us your friends and relatives. We are hiring and we need people from this city to work this police department. They don't have to be from this city, but that's where we want to focus. So if you have somebody that's interested, send them our way. Some of the things that we've done, and I'll rattle them off and I'll be succinct as I've been asked to do. First thing is, I got to thank the Board of Supervisors for increasing the pay, which puts us closer to other departments in the area. Officers who want to live in the Bay Area, it costs a lot of money to live here. We all know because we all live here. So when we got that pay increase mid-contract, we did not lose as many officers as we thought that we would lose this year. Usually in June is when most people retire. We didn't lose as many as we thought we would lose. We have about 500 officers right now, about a quarter of the police department, more than a quarter actually, that are eligible for retirement because they came in about 30 years ago when hiring was at its highest. Those officers we want to retain, so the pay helps. The other thing that we have done is this budget that we are in this year, we're hiring a professional recruitment service to help with our recruitment. They've already started with the advertisements and all that, but we got additional funding to recruit candidates to this police department. This has to be the type of police department that people want to work for because we have competition. We have San Jose, we have Oakland, we have small departments in communities where many of our officers live that pay better. It's not as hard to police in these cities, some of them. But the other thing is we've assigned a sergeant for retention to go back and reach out to officers that have left. And he's only been in place for about 2 months. And we already have 3 officers that are coming back because of the increased pay and the things that we're trying to do. You look at our command staff and the diversity. When people come into a police department, they want to have hope that they can promote. They want to see people who look like them. We have one of the most diverse command staffs in this nation, and I'm proud of that. And we want to make sure that there's opportunities for everybody, male, female, no matter what your race is, to go up if you come in this police department. That matters. And the last thing is, I'll keep this short, is our facilities, our equipment. We want to be in front of the pack, not behind the pack. And we have fallen behind. Our police cars were terrible. We finally have gotten some budget and some money, thanks to, partially to this man over sitting on my left, Matt Dorsey, who used to work for this police department, to get the money to get us better equipment. We need better safety equipment. We need better cars, and we're on our way there because if you're competing, you got to have the goods to say, this department is better than that department, so come here. And so those things are helping. And the last thing is the people. It's these officers standing around the room. Any of us that decided to be a police officer, we probably look at the department that we want to work for and say, what am I going? What am I going to? These men and women make a difference. So when we hire the right people, we do the right things to support them, then we attract the right kind of candidates. So those are the things that we do. Thank you.
如果想所謂邀請多啲警察，即係請多啲警察咧，但係我哋啱嗰陣時起咗人工俾啲差人。我哋知道三藩市灣區嘅地方咧係好貴，同埋好多競爭，特別好似 San Jose 都係邀請警察嘅，人工嗰度都係幾高嘅。 所以我哋諗住嗰陣時會流失咗好多差人，但係點知大部分都唔係流失咗好多，因為有一部分嗰啲差人已經退咗休。我哋有啲幾個差人離開咗三藩市，去咗另開個警察翻嚟，最近有大約3個。
Hello. So I want to actually emphasize a statement that the chairman of the Sixth Company just made in the opening remarks, which I don't think was properly translated. And it's an important statement both because he's a representative of our community, and it's also one of my questions. And his comment is, there's inadequate arrest, and when there are arrests, they're not prosecuted. And in the few times they're prosecuted, it's a slap on the hand, just a very light sentence, slap in the hand, and they're out committing the crimes again. And both he, as well as me, a native San Franciscan, and my whole family, and I'm sure a lot of questions are basically tied to the same sentiment. What is being done to increase the punishment so that these crimes aren't committed and it really serves as a true deterrent?
佢個問題咧就係問你哋即係有罪案啦，咁有罪案發生，有人報警，但又好似冇跟進，咁跟住有跟進啦，告咗佢哋啦，又好似冇咗下文。好啦，告得入啦，判咗佢哋刑，入去坐監又好，或者就俾罰款又好，好快佢哋又出翻嚟，又重新再犯個案。咁你哋有乜嘢嘅解決方法咧？對於一啲咁嘅事？
So I don't disagree with you at all. That was a big part of one of the issues that I spoke out about during the recall of the previous district attorney, was that I 100% agree that this conduct was minimized, that there were no consequences, and that was contributing to the belief amongst these offenders and these assailants that San Francisco is a safe place to commit these types of egregious acts. And so that is why I came in the door saying that will no longer be the case. That is why I have made sure that we've dedicated resources to these types of cases to handle them in the best way possible, which, like I said, is to make sure we have dedicated prosecutors to these types of cases who are experienced and who know what the consequences need to look like, and who can take these cases to trial if we need to and get a conviction. And so all that is over. There will be consequences.
咁啊，謝安儀頭先咧就都同意頭先發問者嘅所講嘅嘢嘅，咁佢就話之前嘅地檢官咧就可能令到咧即係有啲係犯罪嗰啲犯罪分子咧覺得咧可以喺三藩市嗰度咧就犯案啦，咁佢咧就係承諾咧係會係即係。 對於一啲咁嘅犯罪咧係好嚴肅咁樣處理啦，咁唔會再姑息一啲係呢啲罪案嘅發生。咁佢咧就亦都有所以佢亦都委派咗一啲有經驗嘅檢控官咧係去檢控呢一啲案件啦。咁就希望咧就攞到呢一個入罪嘅。
Thank you. Mr. Lay had a short question, and then the woman next to Mr. Lay. Oh, I'm sorry. I think we're waiting here. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, and then 4.
Good evening. Thank you, community. Thank you, officials, for being here. I heard a lot of great ideas and questions that came up here today. I think the community had some good ideas around finding out why this is happening, having a holistic approach, forums. I like those ideas, staffing. I have a naive suggestion and I have a question. So one naive suggestion is, have you thought about having undercover cops or undercover team going out, posing as seniors in hotspots and seeing if that does anything? And the question for DA Jenkins is, I've heard that it's hard to prove a hate crime because they may not necessarily talk about a person's race, but if a person is being targeted because of their age, being elderly, isn't that a protected class? So, thank you.
係，咁佢有一個提議啦，同埋一個問題㗎。個提議咧就係可唔可以向一啲重點嘅好多 老人家被襲嘅重點嘅地區，派一啲便裝嘅警察去到守衛住呢一啲老人家咧。咁佢嘅問題咧就係想問阿鄭安儀地檢官咧，就係呢一啲犯仇恨嘅罪行咧，你話好難去到即係證明佢係咪一個呢個仇恨嘅罪案。咁但係當一啲老人家佢被襲係因為佢嘅年紀嘅時候，咁係咪已經可以係構成一個呢個仇恨嘅罪行咧？
So yes, a hate crime is one of the only enhancements or charges that requires proof of motive. So what specifically motivated the person to commit the crime that they're committing? With respect to age, we have been charging, at least since I took over, elder abuse charges, which do encompass the age of the victim, because the law carves out a special protection for our seniors, right? Because they should be, they're more vulnerable. And so that will be a part of the review that's being conducted as well, as whether or not the previous administration adequately included those charges in any assaults upon our seniors. With respect to hate crimes, again, we have to find some evidence of the motive that is hate-based, that is founded in some type of animus. And so that is what, for the cases where we think we should be doing additional investigation, we will do that.
咁啊，謝安儀咧就講到咧，就解釋到咧，其實仇恨犯罪咧係要證明呢一個動機嘅。咁佢亦都提到咧，除咗即係譬如有長者係被打啊，咁佢哋咧。 不嬲都係用緊一個叫做虐待長者嘅罪行咧去檢控嘅。咁因為咧係長者係受到保護㗎啦。咁佢亦都咧係已經咧係委任佢裏邊嘅工作人員咧就係去睇下咧之前博設施嗰個裏邊咧佢哋有冇好即係。 佢會唔會睇漏咗嘢啊？如果博設施嗰個佢哋之前係做漏咗嘢咧，佢哋會係補一啲係跟進一個調查啦，睇下會唔會有多一啲嘅罪行，佢哋可以去檢控嘅。咁最後佢亦都係講翻就係仇恨犯罪咧係需要有證據去證明。
係，我講呢個問題咧，就係無家可歸者嘅問題。而家市面上越嚟越多。我住唐人埠，響半年之前咧，我一早起身一開門，有個無家可歸者就攔住個門口喺度大小便，嚇到我馬上關翻個門走翻入屋。即係對我哋啲長者啊、啲市民啊，好似構成咗一個威脅咁嘅樣咯。
Okay, so this question is regarding the unsheltered and the homeless in San Francisco. About a couple of months ago, she opened her door and there was a homeless person in front of her door taking a number 2. And she has to keep living through this and the community is living through this and it's only getting worse right now. And she's wondering who's responsible for that problem.
Yeah, I'm going to answer that question and ma'am, I'm going to answer your question first. So her question was about decoy operations. We used to do those. We don't do them in that manner, at least right now. We don't totally rule it out, but here's what we do currently. If we can establish a pattern, we deploy our plainclothes units, and we do this for robberies. We've done it for other crimes, and we've actually been able to stop crimes from happening because we do that. But we have to establish a pattern, like it's happening at a certain location, a certain time, and then we'll put our plainclothes unit in that area, and then we disrupt, intervene, and we pop people before they can commit crimes and victimize people. So that's how we do it, but we're not going to totally rule out decoys, but we haven't done it in a long time. Thank you. So for the homeless question, I'll start, and there probably are others on this panel that want to speak to this. For the homeless situation, I mean, that is, I can't even express how unacceptable that is. Who's responsible? So the police department does have a role. We can enforce the laws, the police municipal code laws and things like that. In terms of somebody defecating on your property, I mean, there's all kind of wrong to that. So you can call us for that, please. Now, what we will do is also we will get the homeless and supportive housing department involved in that conversation. If this person is unhoused, what the city department does that's responsible for that is they try to get them housing. But make the call, we will come and we'll coordinate. If it's us coming, we'll coordinate with anybody we have to take care of that problem. That's disgusting and unacceptable. So I don't know if there's anything that anybody wants to add to that, but we will come.
頭先關於派出嗰啲便衣嚟所謂扮長老者呢件事咧，我哋係以前有做過，但係而家咧我哋本身而家有一個部門係所謂嗰啲便衣係專捉賊嚟捉賊嘅，要睇嗰個罪案有冇重複再發生，如果有發生咧，我哋會派嗰啲便衣過去嗰度去捉嘅。關於所謂嗰啲無家可歸者咧，話喺你門口嗰度大便，咁之類，我哋有所謂揾地方俾佢嗰啲無家可歸住。但係如果你重複有嗰啲無家可歸喺嗰度所謂做關於好似大便大小便咁之類嘅，可以樂意嚟打電話俾我哋差人，咁到時我哋差人會幫你哋。
Good evening, Ms. District Attorney Brooke Jenkins. Good evening, Chief of Police Bill Scott. Good evening, Mr. Charles Jung. First of all, I want to say it's great to see the full presence of the San Francisco Police Department here this evening. And for all of you out there, my name is Ayn Lay. I'm a Vietnamese American. I have lived in San Francisco for the past 3 decades. I was brutally attacked and brutally assaulted in front of a supermarket, namely 1118 Stockton Street in Chinatown on November 2nd, 2019. Brutally attacked by 2 individuals, an adult male who's 275 pounds, and his son, who brutally attacked me and assaulted me with a long baseball bat. Under the previous District Attorney's Office administration, the previous District Attorney dismissed the felony charges against the adult attacker. My question is this. District Attorney Brooke Jenkins, I know you've touched on a little bit already that you've asked your team leader, Ms. Nancy Jung, the Assistant District Attorney, to review certain cases to see if there's evidence to charge people with crime. So my question to you respectfully, Ms. District Attorney Brooke Jenkins, is this. Since the beginning of January 2020 up to the present, there have been many crimes committed against Asian Americans in San Francisco, including brutal attacks and assaults, shootings, killings, stabbings, and murders. And to the best of my anecdotal observation, I don't know how many of those, if any, have been prosecuted or tried. So my question to you, and I don't know if you're prepared to address this question or not, in your request to Assistant District Attorney Nancy Jung to review certain cases, will that review include all those cases of anti-Asian American hate and murders and killings and stabbings from the beginning of January 2020 up to the present? Thank you, District Attorney Brooke Jenkins.
OK， 我好快就有做翻譯。咁呢位先生咧，佢之前喺2019年咧就係被襲擊啦。
咁佢哋係對其中一位嘅襲擊者，佢俾兩位襲擊人士襲擊咗。咁佢其中一位襲擊嘅佢嘅嗰個人咧，佢個指控咧係被取消咗嘅。咁佢想問下阿謝安儀地檢官咧，就係咧，當喺2020年至到而家，所有曾經被襲擊過、被謀殺過嘅亞裔人士嗰啲案件，究竟佢會點樣去處理？
Thank you for your question, Mr. Lay. As you know, I'm very familiar with your case, with what happened to you, and with the way the San Francisco DA's office failed you after that happened. And so I know that there's nothing I can do to change that, but what I can assure you is that we will conduct that review, and we will do it thoroughly, and we will make sure that these cases not only are charged correctly, but that we keep victims informed throughout this process of what's happening. We won't resolve a case or do anything with a case without informing victims of what's happening and getting their input, and that we will proceed with the prosecution appropriately based on what we need in order to receive accountability and consequences in these cases. I never want to hear of another case being mishandled the way yours was. Ever.
咁啊，謝安儀咧就佢同頭先問問題嗰位先生就講，佢其實咧就好熟悉嗰單案件嘅。咁佢好抱歉咧就暫時咧佢唔可以改變任何嘢。咁但係咧佢會係委派佢嘅團隊咧係去再睇翻呢一件案件啦，睇下咧係咪咧檢控得係啱，即係咪準確咁樣、正確咁樣檢控罪犯嘅。咁佢亦都承諾咧係將會咧即係令到所有嘅受害人咧得到即係應得嘅資訊啦。咁同埋咧就會係去檢控一啲罪犯啦，係講緊係即係正確咁樣去作出檢控。佢唔想再聽到有一啲類似呢位先生啲案件再喺度發生。
Hi, everybody. So my name is Paulina Bayer. I've been involved in the community for a while, including in the recall of the district attorney, Chesa Bodine. I'm an ally of the AAPI community. I'm here with other allies of the AAPI community today, including someone that I would like to ask a question about her specific case. I know you can't reveal details, but this is Amy Rapapakti. She's Grandpa Beach's daughter. He was brutally attacked and killed. He was 84 years old. Regarding hate crime charges specifically, I know that there are certain elements, and Chief Scott, you spoke to that. Brooke Jenkins, you spoke to that as well. Can you promise us that included in your review will be the review of this specific case and Grandpa Beach's charge and or the perpetrator's charge? Can you promise us that you will consider the hate crime charge in that case? Because clearly the predecessor, we don't really have a lot of faith that he
going to do a twofer. I'm going to ask Justin to do one more question and answer the question. Also ask each of you whether there are specific commitments that you can make here today to fight vision, specific commitments, and whether you will appear within the next 2 months to discuss with the rest of us how much progress we've made on those commitments.
Hi, my name is Justin Chu. I'm one of the organizers of this event in the march. I live just blocks away from where a 7-year-old was attacked in a very safe neighborhood with many elderly seniors. And to see that happen, and for years and years, and we know Montana's been working with her, it just, for many of my friends, they have left the city, to be honest. And for the ones who are fortunate, we can't. But I love the city. I'm Chinese American, Asian American. This is the capital, the head of Chinese American, Asian America. And so my question is for you, Chief Scott. So the California DOJ conducted a collaborative reform initiative with SFPD from 2016. And as you know, the final report was in 2022. And they had a specific recommendation that I think we should highlight, which is recommendation 44.3. The SFPD should adequately resource the professional standards and principled police bureau to reflect the diversity of the community it serves and the officers of the SFPD in order to effectively coordinate community policing efforts throughout the city. I'm glad that DA Jenkins have brought on Nancy and others who reflect the community, who are women, who are underrepresented in the leadership councils. Many times the Asians are the workers in our community, but not the leaders, the C-levels who are making the decisions. And as you know, Chief Scott, out of the 8 chiefs you have today, none are Chinese. There's one who is Asian American. The city, the latest statistics, we are over 37% Asian. So, and the current number you have is 12.5%. I know you have one assistant chief open, and I think this can help solve a lot of problems in terms of hiring, in terms of communicating with the community, because this is all volunteer. It was so difficult to put this on, to find the volunteer translators, and that's only translating one dialect in Chinese. There are multiple other dialects. And so my question for you is a yes or no commitment. Will you commit to hiring a Chinese assistant chief, someone who's from the community, who can speak our language, who can understand our issues, number one? Number two, will you commit to hiring 2 deputy chiefs who are Asian American that reflects the community? So what that means is by hiring 3 more chiefs, that will get us to 36% Asian representation at the very top. And I think that will help us hire more Asian police officers. The other thing is that we have 17% of sworn officers here who are Asian for a population of 37%. That's severely underrepresented. So what that means is when people, elderly who don't speak English, have an issue, it's very hard to find a police officer and know someone who can even get their case and updates, which you just heard. And so I think at the core of it, this is a yes or no question. Would you commit to hiring 3 chiefs, 1 assistant chief who is from the Chinese community, who speaks the language, and 2 more chiefs who are from the Asian American community?
Let me be very honest and clear with you. I don't make promotional decisions based on race. It's illegal, number 1. And number 2, it's wrong. We have a very diverse command staff. We have 3 sworn members of our command staff that are Asian. We don't have an assistant chief opening, by the way. This is the latest promotion to assistant chief, and our other assistant chief is assistant chief Bob Mosher. My selections are based on trying to put the person in those positions that can get the job done. Whatever they are, male, female, Asian, white, African American, but we do have a very diverse command staff. So I just want to be very clear and transparent on how those selections are made. Right now, I cannot make, or should anybody make those types of decisions based on race. It's not legal.
It's what I'm asking for is what the DOJ recommended is to reflect the community, right? Fundamentally, that's what it is. And clearly what's happening today is not enough. It's not working enough. It's so hard to even talk to you, to have you here, to have people who speak the language, who can translate.
And so it doesn't have to be someone who, is of a Chinese race, someone who can speak Chinese, who understand our languages.
Well, first of all, it's not hard to have me here. I'm here. Secondly, to your question about making a commitment to appoint an Asian assistant chief, I think that's unfair for you to put me in that position because that's not how I make personnel decisions. And I want to be clear and transparent to you and the audience. I make decisions based on the talent that we need to do the job. I do not make decisions based on race, gender, or any of that. But we do have a very diverse command staff, and we have talented people that have an opportunity when those jobs come open. But I can't sit here and tell you that that person's going to be black or white or male or female, and I won't, because that's not fair to the process, it's not fair to this department, and it's not fair to the city.
So you can make commitments on someone from a certain underrepresented community and it's qualified. The President of the United States does that for the Supreme Court, for his appointment. So those are not mutually exclusive issues. You can find somebody who's qualified and who reflects our community.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what I try to do. But that's not the question you asked.
I only have so much time, but for a community of almost 40% Asian, I think you can find somebody, or even across the country, I think you can find somebody who is both qualified. I'm not asking you to, obviously you want to solve these issues. Don't go hire, a teacher to be a police officer, right, who is not qualified to be a chief, but somebody who can do the job that we need to do to protect our seniors. I live in the city. This is my city. You're a public servant to serve us, and we are fed up of having to come and do rallies. This is too much. And so this is from the community. You heard the response here. Will you commit to hiring somebody, of course, who is capable, but who is from the community, who understands our issues, who can speak our language?
I think I've already answered that question.
So that's a no.
I think I've already answered that question. My commitment is to hire people that can get the job done. And we have talented people from the community that have that opportunity. You're looking at two of them right there. So that is my answer.
Thank you for the question and the answer. District Attorney, if you'd like to make any closing remarks.
I think the one thing that I hope to impress upon everybody in this room is that regardless of what we look like, we are committed to one purpose, and that is to protecting you and protecting San Francisco. And I hope that you know that all of us up here, who are a rainbow of different colors, are committed to that with every ounce of our beings. We will fight for justice, and we will fight to protect you.
Thank you all for coming tonight to the town hall meeting. Maybe we can have another one later on. So 多謝大家嚟到呢個會議呢度，咁咧今晚就結束啦。So I think it's time to end the conversation. I hope it's important to everybody and educating for everybody. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Chief Scott. Thank you, DA Brooke Jenkins. Thank you for SFPD, everybody here. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Lin. Thank you again for tuning in to the live stream and tonight's Defend Asian Elders Town Hall. We are here as a community to demand that San Francisco's elected leaders, city officials, and police department work urgently to address the ongoing and persistent act of violence against our Asian elders and to apprehend the perpetrators of the recent violent attacks on our elders in the Asian community, and to do so urgently. These cowardly and completely unacceptable acts of continued violence against our Asian elders must stop, and action must be taken now. We're here to fight for our civil rights and demand real action, not just words. Our community must feel protected, and perpetrators must be held accountable for their acts of hate and violence. For those of you tuning into our live stream or who are now tuning in after this live stream has completed, you can contribute to the safety and help defend Asian elders by sharing the stream, having discussions with your peers, friends, family, and allies. There is a GoFundMe which you can donate to, which will help us provide temporary security to the Asian elders, in San Francisco, and continue demanding action to be taken by your city officials, lawmakers, and police departments. Because community organizations, many led by volunteers who do this on our own time and contribute our own resources and funding, is not enough. I would like to do a quick recap with one of my co-hosts who is here behind the scenes, Jimmy Hua. We just spent the last 2 hours listening to San Francisco elected officials and police department officials, discuss and take questions from the San Francisco community. And while you and I know, cannot physically be there tonight, we're able to still join in and host this live stream. What are your initial thoughts based on what you heard today?
I mean, I think it's very interesting. It's first and foremost, I think it was great that we were able to get the DA there, the SFPD chief there, to have these conversations, and others there. To an extent, it's great to hear some of their conversations, but as we heard towards the end, I don't think that it was necessarily the answers or the commitment that some of the community members were looking for. I know it's very difficult to say certain things, but I think what the community is looking for is someone who's being genuine. And I think we have heard some of that happen, but I'm not sure what's going to happen. I think, truth be told, a part of me is going to go that route. Hey, we'll find out when and if they do something. I don't know. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think, you and I, we've been doing these streams for over a year now, and we are far, far, far past words, right? We really need action to be taken. I am personally optimistic that the new San Francisco DA, DA Jenkins, is hopefully going to act. She is new, so I don't know too much about her, so my hope is that she will do something. Looking at the engagement and the comments through this live chat, there's a lot of opinions. And based on the comments and questions, like you said, from the community members in the town hall tonight, there were a lot of opinions, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain that that the community is feeling that just needs to be addressed. And I think part of it is an acknowledgement that these things are happening, and we can't sweep them under the rug. We can't give them these kind of public relation answers that that tend to be given to reporters that are essentially non-answers. I would rather hear, hey, you know what, we are not great at doing something, and we are going to correct it by looking at it this way and that way, versus, oh yeah, well, here's an excuse here, or you know what, like we just don't have enough funding or something like that. And I think we heard a little bit of that. But again, I am ultimately an optimist, so I am hoping that something will come from this.
Yeah, I definitely, I think we need to be optimistic. It's really hard to not to, because it's very depressing. But I will say that, as we all know, this conversation isn't new. There's been multiple rallies, multiple things going on. And to an extent where the previous DA, the community felt that that individual was not speaking for the community. And it's gotten to a point where multiple organizations, multiple individuals are having to do stuff. And it's kind of unfortunate that our own community had to step up multiple times. And as one of the individuals are speaking about, getting this town hall to happen was not easy. For everyone external, it sounds easy because there's something I posted. However, we had to double, triple confirm because multiple organizations said certain individuals who said they were going to be there was not going to be there, but they are now today. And so I think it's one of those things that we need to be truthful. We need everybody to be involved, to be part of the conversation, to be part of the action. And we definitely need our leadership, regardless of them being elected or not, to be transparent and to be there to listen for the community, but also to do something. I understand that different communities have difference, but I think one of the things that we all agree with is one of the jobs of these individuals is to protect the people within our community, to make sure that they don't get hurt, to make sure that they're protected and their rights are protected, but most importantly, that their lives are protected. And so I think it's great to see communities come together and do this, but unfortunately, it shouldn't be coming to this. And if this continues on, I think this community, as we've seen in the newest organization involved, unfortunately will have to do more.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where I'm going to challenge those of you who are still watching or watching this after the fact to get involved. If you have strong opinions, if you have a desire to see change, it doesn't matter how you take action and get activated. It's time, right? And I think for myself, it took quite a bit of time, speaking truthfully, for me to get involved. And I found that my strength was to really amplify these voices, amplify these conversations, really have these things. And again, I'm not trying to shine the light on me, but really it's to showcase that, look, this can be done. You can do something. And I strongly encourage you to do it. And there's lots of organizations. Even if you're not in the San Francisco Bay Area, which I call home, Jimmy, I know you call home, that you can still get involved. If you want to get involved in the San Francisco Bay Area, there's a lot of organizations that are doing some great work. There's a lot of great leaders that are constantly putting in the hours and the time to do all of these things to make sure that the community is being heard, that people are being held accountable, not just those who are committing these acts of violence or hate, but those in positions to actually make change, or those in positions to actually enforce the laws that are on our books. So again, if you're watching this, listening to this, it truly is, I'm calling on you to take action. It is up to each and every one of us. I think as an Asian community, it takes us quite a bit of time to get riled up and move forward and really make change. But when we do rise up standing together, we can make a huge wave of change, and it is impossible to be ignored. So please do so. This is your chance. Continue to get involved with your community. Find ways that you can help either those who have been hurt, or find ways to prevent additional hurt that is occurring. Jimmy, any before we go, any last closing thoughts on your end?
Yeah, you know what, Chris, I echo what you said. I mean, we all, in order to make changes, we all need to get involved. And so get involved locally, get involved in your local politics, get involved with nonprofits, organizations that are doing help, that are either advocating or doing direct services. We cannot depend on others to do this. We all need to take a piece of helping and solving the problem. Not one solution will solve everything. It's a combination of stuff. And this is where we have to listen to each other to actually have these tough dialogues that we have, and even probably have tougher dialogues, so we could find something that can help their community and move towards a better place for all.
I 100% agree, Jimmy. And with that, I would like to close this out by giving a few special thanks to the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association, the Asian Justice Movement Coalition, and especially to the following organizing leads, such as Stand With Asian Americans, led by Justin Zhu, APAs Against Hate, Stand With Asians, Asians Are Strong, Compassion in Oakland, Delta Chinatown Initiative, Dear Community, Asian Leaders Alliance, Larry Yi, the SF Police Commissioner, Charles Zhang, Christina Chen, Catherine Doe, Forrest Liu, Lily Ho, Myron Lee, Hudson Liao, John Sitt, Mark Young, Qian Nguyen, Brian Pang, and Jimmy, again, you as well. My name is Chris Lin. It has been a pleasure hosting this live stream with all of you. Thank you all for tuning in and engaging in today's Defend Asian Elders March and Town Hall. And we do appreciate that you do uplift our communities. You may be as enraged and empowered as we are. It is time for all of us to step up, defend, and protect our elders and fight Asian hate. Thank you very much, and good night.